My role as chair of the Board of Trustees, first and foremost, is to support Father Bob any way I can and to make him as successful as I possibly can. Everything else I do in leading the board and the governance of the university is secondary in my mind.
From the campus of Our Lady's University, this is For Good, Stories from Notre Dame, a behind-the-scenes glimpse into life under the Golden Dome and the powerful stories that drive Notre Dame to become a force for good in the world. Hello and welcome to For Good, Stories from Notre Dame. The University of Notre Dame recently inaugurated its 18th president, Father Bob Dowd, following a historic three-day celebration that showcased the enthusiasm and optimism surrounding the future of Our Lady's University. In this season of new leadership at Notre Dame, the university's Board of Trustees also elected a new chair, John Veihmeyer. John is a Notre Dame graduate from the class of 1977 and the former chair and CEO of KPMG International. John, thanks so much for joining us, and I know everybody's going to get an opportunity here to get to know you a bit better, but why don't we start with the inauguration? You played a leadership role throughout the 3 days. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think of its impact?
First of all, Lou, thanks. It's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me to do this.
Oh, thank you.
One of the many things I never thought would happen to me at Notre Dame. So for those of you who were fortunate enough to be here, I know you're so grateful you were able to. It was, even for me, I'm here often, and we get to do a lot of neat things with Notre Dame. This was a truly impactful couple of days for me. Obviously, it was a great opportunity to celebrate our new president and celebrate Father Bob well. I think we did. You know, there was a number of really nice tributes to Father Bob from people, frankly, from every stakeholder group that's part of the Notre Dame family. His family, Congregation of Holy Cross, faculty, staff, students, all of which were incredibly personal, incredibly warm, and I think really touched Father Bob. Then Father Bob's inauguration speech, which I think was incredible. It was thoughtful, it was challenging, and it was inspiring at the same time. So hugely impactful speech. But, you know, in addition to celebrating Father Bob, it was such a neat time to celebrate Notre Dame and the Notre Dame family. And I will tell you, the most moving moment for me in the 2 or 3 day celebration was near the end of the inauguration ceremony with Father Bob kneeling on the stage and Monk and Father John giving him a blessing, which to me personified the essence of what Notre Dame is. Is there another university in the world where you would have the two previous presidents not just there to help celebrate, but still a vibrant and meaningful part of this community and this Notre Dame family, committing to support Father Bob any way they can, and they will. Right. And it just showed, I think, the wisdom of Father Ted in the shared governance model, that was created. Lay leadership, but still a very real and substantive presence of the C.S.C. And, it just reinforced for me how important to Notre Dame it is to have a priest president.
Yeah, it was, we talk about Notre Dame moments. And so if you were a part of it, or if you want to, pick up Father Bob's speech on YouTube, ND Loyal webpage, you can get a copy of it there and see it as he so eloquently delivered it. But it was a Notre Dame moment. It was a touch of the sacred, as well as kind of really charting a bold vision for the future. And I have a former colleague of ours here who would say that that Notre Dame is an incredible place for renewing the soul. And this was a kind of place, no matter how long you've been here, you participated in that inauguration, your energy was renewed. There was such a passion for what was going on, and you led and facilitated so much of it over the weekend, and did it very beautifully and humbly, and focusing on all the right things. So you just executed the most important responsibility, arguably, that a board of trustees has, and its many responsibilities, and that is to select a new president. Kudos on the selection of Father Bob, and great for the world to get to see now a little bit more about who he is and what his vision is. But of course, that will continue to be rolled out over the course of the next year or so. Tell us a little bit about the process and what you were looking for, and obviously, how the board, came to this decision.
The process was led by my predecessor as chair of the Board of Trustees, Jack Brennan, who did an absolutely incredible job of not only leading this board for the last close to 9 years, but really, I think, being a sounding board for Father John for all of those years as well.
Right.
And one of the fantastic things that I think Jack did, among many, as board chair, was focus on the fact that we don't want to start the process of selecting a new president when it's time to name a new president.
Yeah.
And so I would say this process started at least 4 to 5 years ago with a lot of conversations around potential successors to Father John, even long before we ever knew when we would need those successors, right? And identifying who some of those potential candidates within the C.S.C. may be, and then most importantly, putting them in roles and giving them some opportunities to develop some broader skills and experiences, so that if in fact they were at some point in the future selected to serve as president, they've had some experience that will help them in that role. So the process that occurred from between the time that Father John announced he was going to retire and naming Father Bob was almost the last 10 yards, I would say, of a process of talent development and nurturing of that talent, which I think was the most critical part of the process. But then you get into the process, we utilized the standing committee of the board, the nominating and governance committee. That's a big part of its job. And as you say, for the board as a whole, nothing more important than selecting a new president. So it was an incredibly thoughtful process. Jack did, as I said, a wonderful job of leading the committee through that process. And we had a great opportunity to hear from a number of members of the congregation what their vision for leading Notre Dame might be, where they saw the opportunities and the challenges. And I think through that process, got a really great sense, frankly, the depth of talent that we are so fortunate to have within the Congregation of Holy Cross here at Notre Dame. I think more than anything, we are incredibly pleased that Father Bob had the confidence and willingness to step up and take the mantle of leadership here at Notre Dame. But I think every member of the committee and the board also came away feeling like we are really blessed at Notre Dame that we had the depth of candidates that we did, and we fully expect well into the future we are going to be so well served by the members of the Congregation of Holy Cross that are here at Notre Dame.
Now, I'm of the belief that the most important relationship in the entire organization is the relationship between the chair of the board and the president of the university. Because if the two of you are not in sync, it leads to all kinds of challenges throughout the rest of the organization. Obviously, Jack Brennan and Father John had developed a very close, excellent working relationship, and it looks like you and Father Bob are off to a similar start. Tell us a little bit about the importance of that relationship and your views already in working with Father Bob.
Yeah, and I think that leads into a question that sometimes I get, which is, why in the world would anybody change the president and the board chair at the same time?
Right.
And it's a really legitimate question. I think this, again, goes to some great foresight by Jack Brennan. Understanding the importance of that relationship, and I think Father John would tell you that Jack was such a valuable sounding board for him as president.
Yeah.
That Jack understood the importance of that relationship and believed strongly that a new president coming into that role would be better served by having someone who's going to have some runway in the role, and not someone, Jack had served for close to 9 years as board chair.
Right.
He wasn't going to do it forever. And being able to have the two of us begin in our roles together and build that kind of relationship, I think, has been really valuable. And we both used this transition period to, more than anything else, begin to get to know each other, better, and form that kind of relationship that I think will be really critical to the university going forward. And I feel really good about it.
I mean, you're a really seasoned leader. I mean, you've led an organization over 200,000 people that is global, and you've traveled, and you've seen just about every leadership challenge that there is to behold. And Father Bob is now stepping into this leadership role. It seems that your mentorship and guidance is really critical. Tell us a little bit about that interplay and what you've seen so far in Father Bob.
Father Bob is going to be an incredible president for this university, and that's a combination, I think, of his personal characteristics, which is where I start the evaluation of talent and potential leaders right with their personal characteristics. And Father Bob's humility, his intellect, and how bright he is, but combined with, I think, a warmth and a caring for everyone that he comes in contact with, combined with a sense of humor, which is going to be really important in a role like this. While at the same time, notwithstanding the tremendous humility that he has, a real strength of he's willing to make the tough decisions and will be very steadfast, I think, in his leadership. So you start there.
Right.
But I think any of us who have had the good fortune of serving as the CEO of any organization will tell you nothing prepares you fully to be the CEO other than being the CEO for a little while.
Right.
And I think, to your point, that is where I think some of those perspectives you just gained from having been around the block a few times on various types of issues, I think hopefully will be helpful to Father Bob as he transitions into this role and frankly, learning how to be the CEO of a complex, diverse, and global organization. So we're working together really, really well. I mean, frankly, in my view, if you can't work well with Father Bob, it's your problem. Right. He's just that type of individual. And both of us, I think, have a clear view of what the other's role in the governance of this university is, and respect that very much.
Right.
And I absolutely view my role as chair of the Board of Trustees, first and foremost, is to support Father Bob any way I can and to make him as successful as I possibly can. And that's how I'm approaching it. Everything else I do in leading the board and the governance of the university is secondary in my mind to being as available. When Father Bob wants to bounce something off me, tell me what he's thinking about, worrying about, and just get another perspective. That's what I'm there for.
Does that extend to his direct reports? I'm joking, but no. On that note,
he and I talk about you a lot, though.
I was afraid of that. This may be one of my final interviews, and this could be coming to a quick end here. No, but seriously, how do you envision your role as board chair? Some talk about boards. They want a working board. People want to be hands-on and get involved in the administration or execution of responsibilities. Others look at it as, no, the administration's there. We're here for strategy. We're here to provide oversight and legal and fiscal and moral, and spiritual ways. What do you see is your role and the role of the board?
The role of the board can change depending upon what's happening in the organization.
Yeah.
My view at this point in time in the history and the life of Notre Dame, we have a phenomenal leadership team here. I think one of Father John's great legacies, frankly, of leadership is the team he left Father Bob. They are world-class, and I don't just mean world-class compared to other universities. We have a world-class leadership team here. That provides, I think, our board the opportunity to really play at a strategic level. Mm-hmm. Certainly helping the leadership of the university think about longer-term strategic opportunities, the framework that, we've just released this past year. But also, and I think this gets into what we look for when we bring new people onto the Board of Trustees, a diversity of experience that, notwithstanding the incredible talent of the leaders here at the university, many of them haven't seen different industries, experienced different kinds of situations, and those are some of the links that I think trustees can fill at various times, whether it's individual trustees chairing committees, working closely with various leaders across the university,
right,
being the same kind of sounding board for them that I hope to be for Father Bob. It's not in any way trying to micromanage and tell anyone how to do their job.
Yeah.
That would be the trait of a really poor board member, in my view. Mm-hmm. However, being there when that leader has a tough decision or struggling with a particular issue, just wants to bounce it off somebody. Have you ever seen this? Have you run into this before? And if so, what are some things I should be thinking about? Those, to me, are the opportunities for the members of our board to really step in, step up, and play the role that we envision. And then, of course, there is a very serious governance responsibility, oversight of the university, and we take that very seriously. But again, the good news is this university is in a wonderful position today with a fantastic group of leaders, and I think it allows us to play at a much more strategic level than some boards I've been on have been forced to play, frankly.
And let's talk about that. You've had extensive experience on other boards, some other top corporate boards that you sit on right now, as well as deep involvement in Catholic organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your board experiences and some of your engagement in supporting the Catholic Church through different means?
Sure, and I would say my board experience starts, frankly, with being the CEO at KPMG, because then I was on the receiving end of board involvement.
Yeah,
which, frankly, is really good experience to help you when you're on the other side of that table and you are on the board or chairing the board, to, I think, really understand some of the nuance of how to be a great board chair for a CEO. Having been a CEO, experienced different board chairs, and seen what helped me the most and what, frankly, didn't help me very much. I think that was great experience for any of my future board roles. From a corporate standpoint, I chair the audit committee and serve on the board of Ford Motor Company, which has been a phenomenal experience. Again, an organization with a wonderful culture, but going through radical transformation. And I think some of the experiences there translate well to any other institution, including Notre Dame, because of the world around us is changing so quickly. Yeah. We're going to need to continue to evolve, transform as well. I chair the board of the LPGA, kind of completely different side of my brain in some respects that challenges, but also something I enjoy a lot. And you mentioned
for those that don't know, that's the Ladies Professional Golf Association.
Yes, thank you.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've just concluded a multi-year term of chairing Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese of Washington, which, again, was a wonderful experience of experiencing the Catholic Church at work. And, when you're on the inside of what Catholic Charities does across this country and in our communities, anyone questioning the value and the importance of what the Catholic Church as an institution does, get involved with Catholic Charities in your community, because that's where the church meets the people most in need at every level where they need help. It makes you feel incredibly proud to be Catholic.
Yeah.
And to recognize that we're not here just to serve other Catholics. We're here to serve everyone who needs our help.
Well, I would say that the best decision that you made with your life was marrying Beth. and she was a St. Mary student while you were Notre Dame, and you both served full terms, 9 years on the St. Mary's board. Tell me a little bit about that experience, sir.
Beth and I met here. We can come back to that later. She graduated from St. Mary's, and she served as their National Alumni Board president, which put her on the St. Mary's board for a couple of years. As she was rotating off of that, the then president of St. Mary's asked if I would, this goes back a ways, this was a number of years ago, if I would serve on the board. I love St. Mary's. I love what St. Mary's does. And I was happy to do that. I served on their board for 9 years. And coincidentally, when I rotated off, they asked Beth to come on, and she just recently, a couple of years ago, finished a 9-year term. So they had one of us on their board for 20 years. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but they survived.
So it's not only your commitment to Catholic organizations, but it's also your commitment to women. And it's not typical that somebody with your background would, chair the board of the LPGA. And I know within your leadership tenure, one of your, at KPMG, a real focal point was to get more women into leadership roles. Why is that important to you? And can you share any anecdotes from that experience that help illustrate your commitment?
For me, as the CEO of KPMG, what I was really focused on was building the most inclusive culture in the organization as I possibly could. Diversity, in my view, is the result or the outcome of having the right kind of inclusive culture in your organization. And the reason I thought that culture was so important is because I really felt like my responsibility as a leader of KPMG was to make sure that every single person in our firm felt like they could achieve whatever they wanted to achieve in their career at KPMG. They didn't need to leave to go somewhere else because KPMG would not allow them to fulfill some dimension of themselves or what they wanted out of their career. And that gets to the kind of respect for every individual, respect for diversity, and a culture of true inclusion that was at the heart of everything I tried to do at KPMG. And that manifested itself, yes, in terms of a number of things we did in terms of trying to advance women. One of the things I was really proud of in my leadership is I was succeeded by a woman as chairman and CEO of KPMG, the first chair and CEO of a Big Four firm in the U.S. And again, those things don't happen, much like we talked about with Father Bob here. They don't happen in the last 3 months as you're picking successors. Those things happen years earlier as you put people in position to get the experience and develop the way they need to be a really strong candidate when the opening occurs. Some things that are taken for granted today weren't necessarily always taken for granted then. And to your point, I do remember one meeting very early in my career as CEO where with 100 or 150 leaders or so, the most senior leaders in the firm, where I talked a lot about the inclusive culture I wanted to build and what I needed, from them to do that. And one of my partners raised his hand and said, so what you're telling us is you don't want us to hire the best people. You want us to put women into these roles. And I said, the way you phrase that question isn't the way I think about it. And I said, the way I think about it is, imagine you're leading a choral group and you're a tenor and you love the way tenors sound. And if you just picked the 15 best voices that auditioned for you that day, surprise, surprise, at the end of the day, you end up with 15 tenors in your group. Is that going to be the best choral group you could form? And the answer is obviously no. It's not about selecting individuals. As a leader, it's about building the best team. And a team, in that case, of a choral group, you need some sopranos, you need some basses, you need some tenors. That's going to form the best team. As a leader in an organization, it's your responsibility to build a team that's going to have that same type of balance, diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and every other dimension of diversity. So it's not the fair question to say, you don't want me to hire the best person. No, what I want you to do is put the best team in place, because organizations are led by great teams.
Yeah, that's great. That's such a great answer, and I love that. Let's go back a little bit. How did you come? You grew up in the D.C. area.
Yes.
How did you come to Notre Dame? And tell us a little bit about your Notre Dame experience. And we do want a little bit more about Beth in here too.
She's paid you, obviously.
No, she isn't. She's as likable as you are. She's just even a little more.
No argument here. I don't think my story is unique, but maybe it's uniquely Notre Dame, I would say. My exposure to Notre Dame, I had an older cousin who went here. I was fortunate enough to come out. I kind of idolized him. While he was here, I came out for a couple of games. And, as a 12-year-old coming to a game at Notre Dame, I just thought, what could be better than this, right? The whole atmosphere and everything else. So roll forward a few years, and we're applying for colleges. And the only place I ever wanted to go was Notre Dame. Not an era of helicopter parenting. I remember being at dinner one night and my father saying, so John, where have you applied to college? And I said, Notre Dame. And he said, well, that's great. Don't you think you should apply somewhere else too? And I said, why? I don't want to go anywhere else. He said, I know, but it's kind of hard to get into. Maybe you should. So he kind of made me apply to Villanova, which I did. Fortunately, I came here when I did, because I probably couldn't get in now. But literally, my first day on campus freshman year, Beth and I met. And we dated for our entire 4 years while we were here. And, I had a phenomenal experience here. I remember specifically, I don't know why I have this conscious thought of a month or two before we're all going to graduate, and so many of my classmates are saying, God, I can't wait to graduate. I can't wait to get out. And I would say to all of them, I think you're crazy. This is like the greatest thing we're ever going to have in our life. Why would you want to leave? And if you ask me, what was your most memorable moment at Notre Dame? That is very vivid and very clear for me. One evening, Father Gene Gorski, who was the rector of Howard Hall at that point, asked Father Ted to come and spend the evening with his 5 RAs. Wow. And we started at about 7 o'clock, and at 2 a.m., Father Ted was still there telling stories. And I remember being conscious of the fact in that moment that I was with one of the most incredible people I would ever have the good fortune of meeting in my life. And there was just something about him. Not just the demeanor and impressiveness and all that, but there was a kind of faith-filled richness to his entire being and what he conveyed, that I was forever impacted. And it was another one of those great examples of, in a lot of ways, being an RA is an unforgiving job, right?
Yeah.
People would say, why do you do that? It's like anything else in life that I've ever done anyway. You get much more out of it than what you put in. And that evening with Father Ted was worth whatever frustration, aggravation, or challenges I had in a year of being an RA. And I feel the same way about every element of involvement I've had with Notre Dame, over the years. Everything you get to do, whether it was, I had the chance to lead the alumni club in Washington 100 years ago, serve on the business advisory school council, lead our gift planning committee, and then as being asked to serve on the board of trustees. Every one of those, and you say yes because when Notre Dame asks, you say yes. It means that much to, I think, all of us. But in every one of those situations, you get so much more out in the relationships, the friendships that you build of people you never would have had a chance to interact with. It's just been a blessing for me in so many ways.
So you've experienced Notre Dame in so many ways, right? As a student, as an alum, as a volunteer, as a leader now of the board of trustees, but also you and Beth have been philanthropists. And you've given back principally to support the financial needs of other students, which is a huge thrust right now for the university. With this announcement of going to a no loan policy and then need blind for international students, that's a significant impact. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on philanthropy more broadly and why specifically you and Beth felt called to support financial aid.
Before I do that, your comments a minute ago reminded me there's one other way I've experienced Notre Dame that I should have touched on, because it was maybe one of the most impactful, and that's as a parent. And our oldest daughter went here, youngest daughter went to St. Mary's. It's like anything as a parent, and you know this. There's nothing you've ever done in your life that gives you as much pride as, being there as one of your children is experiencing something great. And that's the way Beth and I felt, being a parent at St. Mary's and Notre Dame.
That's
as
great.
far as philanthropy, somebody you and I both know who I have a ton of respect for, said once that what you choose to do with your philanthropy is the most important way you have of conveying to the world, but most importantly to your children, what's important to you. And that's especially true with what you do in an estate gift. That's your last chance to communicate to the world and, again, your family, what's important to you. And for Beth and me, what's important to us is our faith, obviously our family, and education. And our philanthropy has largely been dedicated in those directions. Our faith, Catholic Charities, as well as other organizations. And from an education standpoint, what we really care about is making the two great institutions that we were both blessed enough to go to, St. Mary's and Notre Dame, accessible for kids that might not have some of the benefits we had growing up as middle-class families. And so that's why we've really focused on scholarship at St. Mary's and Notre Dame. And we've been able to do that, both of us in our parents' names, because we realize I was at Notre Dame because what my parents sacrificed, and Beth is the same way. And it was a great way of honoring them, who have made every other thing we've accomplished in our lives possible. I think the important thing about philanthropy that I've seen from the inside, both at Catholic Charities and at Notre Dame, is I want to be able to look people in the eye when they are being generous to an institution and say, the funds you're contributing are being so well stewarded that you should have complete confidence in the way those funds are being managed, shepherded, and stewarded.
Right.
And I have seen firsthand at each of those two organizations that I've been involved with that is true in spades. And again, I think it's back to my earlier comment. I think you hope that you're giving your children lessons in the way you live your life and every day, the way you interact. And again, I'm a big believer. I'm here on a lot of other people's shoulders. This isn't because I'm brilliant or anything else. Whatever I have and whatever I've achieved has been on the shoulders of a lot of other people. And I think Beth and I both want our family, our children, to see us living that out and not just saying that, you got to be grateful and you didn't get here on your own, but doing some things that I think demonstrate that we mean that. It's important to give back.
That's beautiful. One final question. Why do you feel so bullish about the future of Notre Dame?
That's easy. And again, I will go back to what I started with. Watching our incoming president with our two most recent presidents. And again, we don't do this very often. 3 presidents in 72 years. Right. I believe so firmly that continuity of leadership is one of the greatest gifts any organization can have. And I don't mean necessarily the same individual. Right. But we're so blessed at Notre Dame that everything we do begins and ends in a discussion, and I mean at the board too, begins and ends with a discussion of our Catholic mission and what we are fundamentally grounded in. That is a consistency that has served us well since 1842 and will absolutely continue to serve us well for the next 150 years plus. And the embodiment of that, as I said before, of seeing 3 priest presidents, 2 former, 1 current, who have, yes, served this university, but served the university in a way that is so faith-filled, so grounded in being a priest first and a president second. That is such a gift that few other institutions that I'm familiar with, that gives me tremendous confidence, along with, I think, the incredible generosity of the folks in the Notre Dame family. I am blown away every day by what other people like me, either they went here, had a child go here, or didn't have anybody go here, but have become connected through some way with some of the things we're trying to do through the various initiatives at Notre Dame, who become convinced this is a special place and we should support it. That's what's enabled us to achieve what we've achieved and allow us to continue in the future. That combination, I wouldn't put anybody up against us at this point.
I love it. It's a great reminder to remember where we've come from and use that to guide where we're going in the future. And that goes right to the heart of our Catholic character and mission as a university. John, I can't thank you enough. You embody everybody I know who knows you and even encounters you briefly, sees the humility and the commitment to excellence, which is a rare combination. And we're so grateful for your selfless leadership. And I know this is going to be a great run with you and Father Bob, going together. So we always close these sessions and invite all of you to participate with us in a prayer to Our Lady, who continues to watch over and animates Notre Dame each and every day. So together we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Take care, God bless, and go Irish. Thanks again, John.
Thanks, Luke.